Hello, and welcome to Live Vedanta, a podcast where we explore simple living and high thinking. Each week, we join Vivek Gupta as he offers insights on bringing the divine into the daily. Vivekji has experienced much of what the world has to offer, whether it is attending an elite business school or traveling to almost 50 countries. However, tired with the inconsistent and incomplete peace associated with these pursuits, Vivekji decided to turn his journey within. And over the last 15 years, Vivekji has shared his observations on the science of happiness with communities across North America and beyond. We're continuing our exploration of parenting through the Bhagavad Gita. What does our scripture say about a parent's responsibility? How can we go from being an ordinary parent to a divine parent? Let's tune in to find out.
Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. Wherever there is ignorance, whoever is ignorant, there is fear. Because ignorance is the same as the unknown. And this is one of our deepest fears, is fear of the unknown. Wherever there is knowledge, whoever has knowledge, there is fearlessness. Because with knowledge, matters become known. So that deep fear of ours is not there. Thinking about this logically, the greatest gift we can give ourselves and others is the gift of knowledge. Because it's equivalent to giving courage, to giving fearlessness. This makes you the greatest. Self-knowledge, Brahma Vidya, Bhagavad Gita makes one the factual greatest. The GOAT, the greatest of all time. This month we are focusing on parenting. And parenting is... First you smile, and then you describe how tough it is. The other months on evolving and working, they're less comprehensive. There's less nuances as compared to parenting. So how we introduce this month, I'm going to reintroduce this, but tell you a story from Bhagavatam. Bhagavan Narayana's kingdom is known as Vaikuntha, and his specific palace where he and Devi Lakshmi reside is monitored by Jaya and Vijaya, two awesome seekers. And one day, one point, the Sanata Kumaras, 5-year-old boys, who are totally in tune with Bhagavan, who love Bhagavan fully, they just want to see him. And so they go to Vaikuntha, they go to the palace, but Jaya and Vijaya stop them, saying, "Do you have permission?" Saying, "Bhagavan is busy right now." And this is shocking to the Sanata Kumaras because, if you think practically, where there's love, there's no requirement for permission. They love Bhagavan, Bhagavan loves them. Where's this idea of permission and security and filters? The Sanata Kumaras recognized in Jaya and Vijaya ego. They're exhibiting their pride, and that is a very asuric quality. It is an indication of someone being dark, demonic, inside. And they cursed Jaya and Vijaya that you don't belong here in Vaikuntha to be the facilitators of Bhagwan's visit. You should be asuras. And we all know they became Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was the older of the two. It means one who enjoys sleeping on a bed of gold. That's an icon, that's iconic for desire. And the younger sibling, Hiranyaksha, was the one whose eye was always on gold. And that is an icon or a symbol for greed. Naturally, wherever there's kama, there will be lobha. Where there's desire, there's greed. And specifically with Hiranyakashipu, when the Sanatakumaras realized their mistake in cursing Jaya and Vijaya, that they had no right to do so. They're not employing Jaya and Vijaya. They felt remorse. And so when Hiranyakashipu was embodied, the Sanatakumara became Prahlada. The Bhakta Prahlada, to constantly remind Hiranyakashipu to be egoless. That you are not the master, Bhagavan Narayana is the master. And Hiranyakashipu, though he didn't listen to Prahlad, but certainly was instigated by him, and eventually Bhagavan Narayana also became embodied as Narasimha and taught Hiranyakashipu how destructive pride is, how ego is the fall for all. What you may not know in all of this, and then I'll get to my main point. Jaya means Indriya Jaya. And Vijaya is Mano Vijaya. Sometimes, when we are disciplined with our body, that is our senses, our indriyas, we start to develop pride, no? Look at how disciplined I am, that I never took that second piece of cake, and you did. And Mano Vijaya, this conquering, this dominating of the mind, of overcoming the distractions of the mind, we sometimes develop pride with that too. In Ramayana, it was Rishi Narada who felt he had overcome anger. And with that pride, he needed Bhagavan Rama to teach him to be deeper than that. Okay. So the point that I'm sharing here is, you see how infinity is ever becoming to bring us back to being. The Sanatakumaras came as Prahlad. The Shastra, the Guru Shishya Parampara, to bring us back to being. Bhagavan Narayana came as a lion, as an animal, to bring Hiranyakashipu back to being. So for us, every person in our life, and specifically our family, our kids, are present to bring us back to being, back to our relationship with Bhagavan, back to our relationship with our self. And if you can appreciate that insight, you will be a divine parent. Not even extraordinary, you will be a divine parent. Then you don't need to study any shlokas. You don't need to read any books. You don't need to hear any advice. We forget. And so one other shloka that I was going to reference with the past shloka, and we're not going to study this in detail, is shloka 8 of the 9th Adhyaya. So that's chapter 9, verse 8, where Bhagavan Krishna tells Prince Arjuna, Prakrite Vashat. Everyone comes with their own nature. They've come with their vasanas, their blueprint, and are directed and controlled by that. And the implication of this is your specific child has come with a specific blueprint to teach you, to guide you. So the next time you meet your parents, you can tell them, you're your parents' teacher. You're your parents' guru. Our next chapter is chapter 18. This is verse 42. And before we get into 1842, I'll share some context with you. In the beginning of 2013, Swami Tejomayananda had organized a World Workers' Conference. And at this conference, he had formally initiated Chinmaya Setukari, which is our evolving adult's age, which is technically 29 to 40. But age is subjective, right? So really it became 21 to 50. And I'll tell you one more story relating to that. So anyways, our batch, we were the 13th batch at Sandipani, and Guruji was our resident Acharya. So we felt we needed to do something with this announcement. So it took us 2 years. In January of 2015, we organized our batch, my batchmates and I, the first international Chinmaya Setukari retreat at Chinmaya Vibhuti with Guruji as the teacher. At that retreat, we had 65 and 70-year-olds also. So very, very subjective time parameters, especially in India. The theme of that retreat that Guruji gave to us was Bhagavad Gita, your GPS on the road of life. Bhagavad Gita, your GPS on the road of life. When you use a GPS to go to a city that you don't know, and that GPS says, turn here, do you ignore that GPS? Be quiet, GPS. I know more than you. I'm going to go this way. Right? If you don't know that city, then you follow that GPS, right? And that GPS is so loving, even when you make a mistake and you miss a turn. What that GPS should say is, hey, idiot, pay attention. You're a danger to yourself and to others. But all that GPS says is recalculating, correct? And gives you another route. Bhagavad Gita, throughout, shares with us what our potential is and what we need to do to release that potential. Anyone in the world who tells us what to do, we have an instinct to resist that. Stoplights, advice, don't do this, do this. Yes? But if we think carefully, when we are told what to do by those who are wise, we start to feel more free. You don't have to think as much. We already overthink matters. We don't have to. And when a group of people do that, synergy is created. Now, keeping that in mind, now the shloka. The shloka is a demanding shloka on how we should be as parents. And this is all means to reaching our potential. Shamo damastapa shaucham. Shamo damastapa shaucham. Kshantir arjavam evacha. Kshantir arjavam evacha. Jnanam vijnanamastikyam. Jnanam vijnanamastikyam. Brahma karma swabhavajam. Brahma karma swabhavajam. Shama, which is quietude of mind. Dhamma, calmness of body. Tapa, which is austerity, penance, expanding one's comfort zone. Shaucham, cleanliness, purity. This is what these first four words mean, and so you're not lost in where this is going. Bhagavan Krishna tells Prince Arjuna, these are the responsibilities of one who's a Brahmana. Throughout this chapter, Bhagavan Krishna gives frameworks, because this is the last chapter. So he's giving frameworks for Prince Arjuna to remember. In our context, these are the responsibilities of a parent. These are not the responsibilities of an ordinary parent. An ordinary parent, you have no responsibilities. Just keep your kid alive. But if you want to be a divine parent, these are your responsibilities. So starting again with Shama, which is quietude of mind. How many of you as parents have quietude of mind? This is what I thought. And it sounds impractical, even though it is practical. So for each of these values, I'm going to give you a more detailed practice, okay? So here you go. Here is how to practice Shama. It is to remember, it is to reflect that not having quietude of mind is wasteful. Whenever you feel annoyed or angry, do you feel better about yourself? Are you a better parent in that moment? And that insight that this is wasteful ends that agitation. And extending this further, the more you calculate what a person has done for you or has not done for you, more so, you will be more agitated. That your spouse never did this, that your kids never reciprocated this. That vanik buddhi, that calculative thought, will only lead to agitation. So whenever you catch yourself calculating, I did the dishes for the last 4 days and my spouse hasn't done anything, or I do so much for my kids and they still don't obey me. That is lack of Shama. It is being irresponsible. Tough, no? Any other parenting book will say, oh, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be annoyed. Not Bhagavad Gita. That's what's so lovely about this map to be a divine parent. Next is Dhamma. Dhamma is calmness of body. And a way to practice this is to simplify. Simplify everything that relates to your body. So expressions of that is, stop caring so much about how you look. Yes? For anyone who has young kids, don't your showers become faster and faster and faster? Yes? The food you eat. So many times Sheila invests a lot of time in making gourmet meals. And Vyasa has no appreciation for that. And when I say Vyasa, I mean Vivek has no appreciation for that. So why? Simplify your grooming. Simplify your cooking. And by doing so, you won't be as tired. Yes? I had asked Sheila about this. She said, you should exercise. Feel good about yourself. If you feel good physically, it will help you to be more enthusiastic. Okay, so there's your practice. Simplify by not caring so much of what this body looks like and what is inputted into this body. I even feel the same way about sleep. Sleep whenever you can, and if you can't sleep, you don't sleep then. Keep serving. Keep studying. Tapaha. Austerity, penance, it is expanding one's comfort zone. How to practice this? Listen. So often as parents, we devolve into the role of being teachers. And we always have an agenda when we interact with our kids. But here we should just listen. Listen to their nonsense. Listen to their sense. Listen to their day. Listen to their nightmares. Just listen. And this is fine training, especially for Indian parents. To grow up from being a parent to being a friend. A good friend tends not to have an agenda, tends not to be a teacher. Yes? So far I said, Shama is to remember that negativity is wasteful. Dhamma, simplify. Tapaha, listen. And finally we have, in this quarter, Shaucha. Shaucha, if you read it externally, it is cleanliness. Internally, it's purity. But you all know, how do you get from cleanliness to purity? Being organized. To be a divine parent, you have to be more and more and more organized than ever. Once you leave the house, you have to hit 10 flags before you come back. That level of efficiency. And lists help a lot. On Sunday, after your Balavar classes, make a list of all of your meals for the week. Put a calendar out and share, this is where you are, this is where I am. There's more known then, so you don't have to talk as much. There's less confusion. Works? Next. Kshantihi. Kshantihi means forgiveness. And this is an awesome word because within the word kshantihi is shantihi. Within the word forgiveness, what is to be done? It is forgiving. You shouldn't just use the word forgiveness. You should practice what that value means. And how to do that is to reset. Depending on when you are rattled or overwhelmed, press reset. If you can do it after a day, very good. You had a tough day, lots of conflict, lots of breaking. Go to sleep. Wake up. You've pressed reset. You continue. Even better is, why wait a day? Do it in an hour. Reset. And a great way to press reset is to know that this will end. In that moment when matters are so absolute and fatalistic, even this will pass. And if you remember that, then what will happen is you will reset. But if you forget that, in that moment that you're overwhelmed, you're going to keep sinking into being more overwhelmed because you're not remembering that this will pass. You're not pressing the reset button. When your router doesn't work, what do? You press the reset button, right? Arjava. Arjava is where the word Arjuna comes from. Arjava means to be straightforward, to be simple. The way to practice Arjava is to be communicative. To be communicative. It is a far better strategy to over-communicate than to under-communicate. When you over-communicate, you're annoying. But when you under-communicate, there's so many more vices that come. You're disrespectful, you're shady, you're mean, you're egotistical. But in over-communicating, all you are is annoying. Correct? I would rather choose that vice than any other of the vices I mentioned. And I was sharing in our happy hour classes Yama, I interpret values very differently for our kids. The value was yama, interpreted as to be open. And a practice to be open is to be expressive, especially when it comes to your positivity, for us to be affectionate. I find that people are not as affectionate as they need to be. People of Indian origin, I find, are less affectionate than those who don't have an Indian background. We can all be more affectionate, more hand-holding, more hugging, more smiling, more selfies in a genuine way. Yes, not studio photography and you put this on your wall. Let this be natural. In one home I stay in, after each vacation, they have a lovely book that they print of their vacation. And I like looking at that, and it's such a sign of affection. Remember we used to do this, or we did this? Shama, Dhamma, Tapa, Shaucha, Kshanti, Arjava. Next is Jnana. Jnana means knowledge, and the following word is Vijnana, which naturally would be wisdom. What knowledge feels like as a parent is to read. To read that which inspires you. We may have very elaborate secular libraries, but that doesn't count as jnana. That counts as information. Jnana is reading that which inspires you, because if you don't read that which inspires you, you think the purpose of your life is to be a parent. But I'm openly telling you in a workshop on parenting that the purpose of your life is not to be a parent. Only. That is part of the purpose of your life. And when you read more, you start to grow your love from family to community. That was one of the points we shared yesterday. How do you stop thinking and worrying about your kids? Engage in community seva, service. So your love grows then. Vijnana is reflecting. If you read in the morning, you will start to develop the habit, the vasana, to reflect on what you read while you're commuting, while you're having lunch, and so on and so forth. Reflection leads to higher levels of engagement. Suppose you all had to go to a birthday party after this class, and you heard all of these values that I talked about. Now you're at that birthday party and you hear someone gossiping, or you hear a spouse being mean to another spouse. Knowing all of these values, now you're reflecting on it and you're going to try to practice that in that environment, correct? See how much more interesting that birthday party becomes. Otherwise, all you will feel is, this is so boring. This is so useless. Why did I come here? But you're still stuck. You still have to be there. That reflection leads to higher levels of engagement. You never feel bored. You're not distracted then. Those who are bored and distracted, it's because you're not reflecting. How come you're not reflecting? Because you're not reading. See the line. And finally, the last value that is emphasized is astikya. Astikya means to be faithful, to be a believer. I'm going to use the word remember. Jnana is read, Vijnana is reflect, Astikya is remember. Remember what? The previous verse that we studied. Remember that all of the people in your family, specifically your kids, are Hiranyakashipu. Remember their Prahlad. Guiding you back to Bhagwan, guiding you back to being independently joyous. Someone who has faith, someone who's a believer, how they relate to their spouse, to their kids, is a dimension apart from someone who's engaged in nastikya, a non-believer, someone who doesn't have faith. So that's how these shlokas are all connected. Wrapping up, being a parent is the most comprehensive responsibility. It is the most comprehensive sadhana. Any orientation you take, political, financial, physical, emotional, and on and on and on, being a parent is all of those. Do you agree? Whereas other responsibilities, like suppose your professional work, other sadhanas that we tend to engage in a controlled environment are not like this. That's why this verse relates to parenting. And the next two verses compare a divine parent to an ordinary parent, but different terms are used. Here the word brahmana is used, correct? Brahma karma swabhavajam. This is the nature of someone who's engaged in the work of a brahmana. A brahmana is someone who is living for Brahman, for being. Count how many values that I just read to you. Shama, Dhamma, Tapa, Shaucha, Kshanti, Arjava, Jnana, Vijnana, Astikya. Got it? There's 9. How many responsibilities are there for a Kshatriya? Next shloka, 7. For a Vaishya, that's a shloka after that, 3. And within that same shloka, for a Shudra, 1. So you go from 9 to 7 to 3 to 1. If one wants to be a divine parent, this is the type of parent you have to be. All of these have to be checked off. If you want to be an ordinary parent, you only have one responsibility. Keep your kids alive. Okay? That's how all of this comes together. Together, Shamo Damastapa Shaucham Kshantir Arjavameva Cha Jnanam Vijnanamastikyam Brahma Karma Swabhavajam.
If you enjoyed what you heard or want to learn more, share this episode with a friend or find us online at facebook.com/cmniagara. For those on the journey of self-development, Chinmaya Mission Niagara provides a community forum for seekers to listen, reflect, and contemplate. This podcast is produced by the Young Adults of Chinmaya Mission, an international nonprofit working to transform individuals through the knowledge of Vedanta. Until next time, inspire, love, be.